Hi, I'm Joe, and this is the Decahedron RPG Podcast. Hi everyone, this is Joe. This is episode 107 of the Decahedron RPG Podcast. Kind of a special episode. Number one, it is the last episode before Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everyone. Or if you celebrate any other holidays all around this area, happiness, enjoy, no matter what you celebrate. We have a special guest today. Our guest is Daniel from the Bandit Keep podcast and YouTube. And he even has a couple products on DriveThruRPG. Jason jokingly refers to as his media empire. But anyway, hello and welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here again. Always fun to be on the podcast. You know, it's lonely podcasting alone. You always have guests, so I generally don't, and I'm sitting here podcasting alone. So I like to jump on other people's shows and interact because it's always fun to talk to everybody.
It is, and I think it's although I do like my alone time too. You know, I'm an introvert, so I do like my alone episodes, but I also like having people on the show. But yeah, so again, welcome. And before we begin our proper, and speaking of media empires, and this is something that Jason normally does, but I would just like to make a little tribute to Norman Lear, who passed during this past week. Norman Lear was a television producer back in the 70s, probably best known for All in the Family and its spin-offs, you know, the Jeffersons Maude and Good Times, which was actually a spin-off of Maude. But anyway, Sanford and Son, Three's Company, Different Strokes. These were all shows from my youth. And they're all shows with strong social messages. And that's actually going to tie in to today's show, kind of. You'll see. But anyway, yeah, he passed. And while I don't agree with all of his politics, I don't disagree with all of his politics either. So, you know, that's the American experience, right? He shaped a lot of my childhood, and a fond farewell to Norman Lear.
Oh yeah, I watched all those shows when I was a kid, and it's interesting seeing them through like adult eyes as well, you know, because as a kid you can kind of see that, like, let's say for instance Archie Bunker was kind of a buffoon, but you really get the the depth of it, you know, as you get older and you see the subtleties of it. So it's interesting, right? There's certain people that really like are spearhead things. It seems like he was one of them that just kind of broke open and changed the way that that kind of situation comedy or whatever was made. So good on him for that.
Yeah, I would say, though, that his biggest ones, like All in the Family and Three's Company, I'm not sure about Sanford and Son, but they were remakes of British shows. So
really?
Three's Company was called Men About the House, and All in the Family was called, I can't remember what All in the Family was called. But yeah, they were pretty much direct imports, and then he just Americanized them. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, you know, sometimes that's the genius, right? Is seeing something that's working somewhere else and then incorporating it into what you're doing.
Yes. Okay. So enough of that. Today's episode is shirts and skirts. This is the big reveal. So there's kind of like three parts to the show, right? There's everybody's guesses. There's the reveal and the presentation of the game. And then there's the giveaway. So for those who don't want to listen to all three parts, I'm actually going to put timestamps in the show notes. And if your listener supports it, you know, some listeners let you go to the next chapter. You can do that. Or some listeners, if you look at the show notes, you can click on click, push, tap, whatever, which section you want to go to. And it'll jump right to that section. I'm going to talk kind of fast throughout this episode because, like I said, there's a lot. And I'm trying not to make it a huge episode. And I'm trying to be very cognizant of Daniel's time. So that's the way we're going to do it. And we're going to start off with the entries. Some are emails, some are voicemails. And the first entry we have, and I just put them alphabetically. And the first one was a new person that we never got feedback from before. His question mark, based on the spelling, name is Adrian. And Adrian says, "Hi, Joe. First time caller, somewhat new listener here with a guess about your game. I am thinking that this is some kind of Cold War era, probably 1950s military base. Not focused on the warfare, but something like a medical unit. Shirts being the male GIs, skirts being the female nursing staff. Basically, MASH, the RPG. Interesting, Adrian. There is actually a MASH RPG out there. It's called Mashed. It was launched on Kickstarter. It's a Power by the Apocalypse game. I was a backer of it. So if you look in the back, they let you put like your name in back, but instead of putting my name, I put my dad's name because he was in Korea during the MASH era, during the war there. So yeah. But then on the 14th of December, Adrian sent me an update and he said, after the last clue, and the last clue was a song called I'm the X. I'm making a last minute change to my answer. I think this is not a military medical base, but a military research project, the Manhattan Project. And I think what swayed him there is in the song, it said, I can do the computations. I'm solving for the Y. I'm the X. Yeah, there's a lot of math talk in there. So I could see where it would lead him to that.
It's funny because I had kind of, as once you did 99 red balloons, I actually was shifted. I still think 1950s, which is what I originally said. But I was thinking too, possibly something to do with military or Cold War. But yeah, those both seem like reasonable and also fun games. I'm now curious about that PBTA MASH game.
I got it. I really like it. I haven't played it yet. The one thing that turns me off, just because of the kind of person I am, the kind of games I like to run, is that there are like a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games. There are sex moves involved, and that's just not an aspect of life I'd like to explore around the table. That's all.
Oh yeah, but I could definitely see that in MASH, though. Of
Yes.
course.
Yes.
Movie.
And trust me, I was military medical mobility hospitals for my entire military career. Well, other than when I was an instructor, and so yeah, it belongs there. But it's just not an experience I like to have around the table. All right. The next call we had was from this dude called Daniel. And it's not really an entry, but let's listen to what this genius of a man had to say.
Hey, Joe. Daniel from Bandit, keep calling in about the contest. I keep forgetting to call in. Actually, your hints are making it more difficult for me. Anyways, I'm pretty sure that if it's not in the rules that I should be not allowed to win again, but I'll still enter anyways because it's always fun. And, oh, the car's going to go by. We'll see what that sounds like. So the first thing I thought of, and this is what I'm going to go with, even though your hints keep throwing me off, is shirts and skirts. Sounds to me like some kind of like 1950s advertising agency game. I think of shirts as like the execs or whatever, and skirts being kind of the way that in the 1950s they might call, let's say, the women working in the office of secretaries or assistants. I guess it could also be something to do with 1950s high school, because again, skirts just reminds me of that. So anyways, but I don't know where the shirts would be there. So I'm going to go with advertising agency and from the 1950s. I never watched that really popular TV show, so like Mad Men. So I'm guessing that was 50s, right, or maybe 60s. I'm not sure. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Could be kind of cool. Anyways, I'm curious to know, and I guess I'll find out on the 16th.
So advertising, yeah, I too have never watched Mad Men. I think it was set in the 60s, not sure. Not a bad guess, because I would also like to point out that Darren Stevens of Bewitched was an advertising executive for McMahon Tate. So,
oh, I'll pretend like I knew that. I think it's the name that really it got me there, which is funny because again the previous caller as well, the skirts thing in the shirts just seems to tie into that time period in my mind. Although I was thinking, I don't want to say, I'll say maybe after all the calls, because I wasn't going to call again because I didn't want you to play a bunch of my calls since I was going to be here, but I did have another idea.
And as for you not being eligible, I kind of agree, but not because you won last time. It's because I'm using you to decide who the winner is. Actually, we both will. And I think that's where it becomes weird and awkward. So so I agree you're not eligible, but the reason is because you're going to be helping me determine the winner by rolling our magic die. So yeah. Another first-time caller. His name, Dark Fluid. That's all I know.
Hey, this is Dark Fluid. I'm calling about shirts and skirts. I think it is about, say, like World War II, spies in Europe, think like French underground type thing. That's just my wild guess, but I look forward to listening and finding out. Thanks.
World War II spies. So 99 Red Balloons, I mean, that's Cold War, a lot of spying there. I Love Lucy, that very Cold War era. Yeah, I could see that tying in. The Lieutenant, yeah, that was a war-ish type during the Cold. Yeah, I could see where Dark Fluid went there. I can see that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the French, I'm not a military historian, but I've played a few military games where they have the French apparently used a lot of female spies during that time period. So that would tie in.
Everybody has all throughout history. If I were going to do a French resistance game, it would be based on an old British sitcom called LOLO. It's on the silliest end of television I will watch because I'm not usually a fan of super silly, but there's a soft spot in my heart for LOLO. All right. Our next call it's not a call, it's an email. Again, first timer. This one's named David. David had a link in his email to Battle.net Games, which I went there. I checked it out. It's a pretty clever little site. He has some neat little games there. Dang it. I even sent him an email about it afterwards. I said, hey, check it out. Do you mind if I mention it on the show? Give you a little plug. He's like, great, but I also work for her. And he had this other, this is his hobby site. Then he has his professional site. And I forgot the name of it. And I didn't write it down in my notes. Oh, I'm so sorry, David. But there will be links to both in the show notes. Anyway, he said that the clues are pretty obscure, I have to say. I'm getting a Star Trek kind of spider sense going on. There's a military thing from the Lieutenant and the Explorer vibe from Wagon Train, and Nina mentions Kirk in 99 Luftballons. I'm going with some kind of space exploration game in the Star Trek sphere. I'm sure I'm off by a country mile. Yeah, I can see all his logic there, right? Yeah, Wagon Train, very explorer-y. That 99 Red Balloons, I didn't do 99 Luftballons, I did the English version, does mention Kirk. And the Lieutenant, yeah, I can definitely see where he got that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. And wasn't Star Trek originally pitched as a Western in space or something like that? How they kind of got it going.
Yes, it was indeed.
Yeah, that's and plus, anybody it's a little meta, but we know that you enjoy Star Trek, so
we do, and I would obviously make a game out of something I enjoy. And there's somebody else. Oh, maybe it was actually the one we already did where it said a mass unit. Oh no, and there's another one coming up. I think it's from Riley, where I'm like, I think they're actually playing the game master instead of the game. So, but there's nothing wrong with that, right? So, all right, that's a good guess, David. Oh, then the next one was Evil Jeff. Evil Jeff, of course, is the host of the Meanings and Musings podcast. He was the winner of our very first giveaway. He won a copy of a book called Through Dungeons Deep, and that in turn got used for all his content for OSR October. So he got good use out of the book. So that was great. I felt good about that. All right, let's listen to what Evil Jeff has to say.
Joe, it's Evil Jeff. Bet you've been wondering where I've been. So, your contest, I've been thinking about it, and actually I already had an idea about it on the first clue, and on the second one I kind of modified a little bit. Because after your first clue with the obvious Western sort of theme music, I started thinking, okay, shirts and skirts, we're in a Wild West thing. But then we played I Love Lucy's theme song, which I recognized immediately, even at 1.5 times speed. I then said, okay, we are emulating either Hollywood or television. And then shirts and skirts to me would be that 40s, 50s, maybe 60s TV or movies. And the idea is that you're going to produce a TV show or movie, and I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work out, but that's where I went with it. And then when you played the last one with 99 Luftballons, you lost me there. I don't know what the heck you were doing. So I'm looking forward to how you're going to tie this all up. Yeah, but Shirts and Skirts, either we are working together, men and women in here, to produce either a TV show or movie or something along those lines. Cool. And now we can go leave feedback about something else I heard in a recent episode later on.
All right. So a game about making a show. Interesting. I could definitely see where you might get that, because there's all these different things that don't seem to connect. And then 99 Luftballon, 99 red balloons. Again, everyone keeps using the German title. I played the English one on purpose. 99 red balloons, you could say, was smack dab in the middle of the music video era. So, yeah, I could give that to him.
Yeah, that sounds like a really interesting idea for a game, actually. You could tie fantasy into it by you're creating shows and then they become real or something like that. So if you wanted to go that vibe. So yeah, that also sounds like a good game. A lot of good games coming out of this if none of these are the correct.
All right. Oh, James. We all know who James is. He shows up on the show a lot. He says, is it a game about dating? That one I will answer right now. No.
That ties into the idea of the MASH game. You wouldn't want a game about dating.
Yes, this is true. And he actually just used that as a filler because he didn't have a real guess. And if you listen to episode 106, he's on that episode. And I went through all the clues, and that's why I played the last clue, I'm the X, which actually supports us on the dating thing, by the way. If you assume X is EX as opposed to X, the letter variable. Yeah, it didn't help him. So he just stuck with that. It was really a placeholder guess. So he would be entered. Thanks, James. Next is Jason. Jason is, of course, the host of the Nerds RPG Variety Cast. He is the only one to send in guesses over the multiple weeks. So we're just going to play them back to back to listen to his thought process evolve, and then we will comment.
Hey, Joe, Jason here. So I had made up my mind on what I thought Shirts and Skirts would be before you played the clue. And that is a musical role-playing game, a game based around doing musicals. So obviously it's going to have a lot of interpersonal interaction. Players are going to have to sing, things like that. And of course musicals are open to any genre. So it doesn't have to be I guess you call it musical genre, although I would call it a storytelling style. But yeah, I'm going to say this is a musical RPG that's going to be interpersonal, relationship kind of focused, social dynamic kind of focused, and require a lot of singing. That is my entry.
Hey Joe, Jason here. Just listened to the review we did for Tunnel Quest, and I wanted to call back in for your contest. I know before I said musicals, but, listen to that second clue. I wonder if it's not like old TV variety shows. The thing most modern listeners would be familiar with would be something like the Carol Burnett show, right? So I think I'm going to change my guess to that, although I kind of loathe to change my guess. But I'm going to change my guess to TV variety shows. Let's see how that works out for me.
Hey, Jason again. So, I don't know, I'm kind of back to, I should recognize that movie clip that you played, but I don't. And I'm not going to research it on the internet because that would be cheating. Well, it's not really cheating, but to me it's cheating because my memory's failing and I don't want to bolster it. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, I kind of want to go back to musicals, but it sounds like it's older war movies, war dramas, kind of the way you describe war dramas, not so much pow-pow, shoot-em-up war dramas. But so I will say, do I want to say war dramas or I want to say musicals? I'll go back to musicals on the off chance that that's going to fit in, and because I should recognize that movie. But yeah, I'll go back to musicals and stick with that. Talk to you later.
Reference the contest, Shirts and Skirts. Yeah, I'm not creative enough to pick up on your clues. I'm sure they make a lot of sense, and I look forward to hearing you explain them. The only thing I got out of the clue in episode 105 was Captain Kirk, which makes me go back to 60s TV shows. So maybe it's 60s TV shows, not specifically 60s variety shows, but I think I'm going to stay with variety shows for my guess. So anyhow, definitely looking forward to when the curtains pull back and we get the explanations of everything. Take care. Keep up the great work. I'm really enjoying the slowly unveiling of the clues. I think that's genius, and I'm very happy you're doing it that way because it's a lot of fun. Take care.
I think it's a lot of fun too, but that's me. Interesting points I got from Jason's guesses was just like Evil Jeff. He went with it's about producing shows. So I found that interesting.
Yeah, me too. I wonder about the singing though. That I'm thinking to myself that would be if you could get a group on board, that could be kind of a fun a fun game. You gotta, when it's a big scene like a combat or something, if that's happening, you gotta sing while you're doing it. Like West Side Story or something. Yeah, I would totally play that. If you judge me on my singing though, I would not do well.
Likewise for me, I'm not a singer. A game like that would kill my wife, who cannot handle anything that's even remotely out of tune. I think she has very well calibrated ears. Yeah, the other thing is, it's interesting the way people are going with 99 Red Balloons because there's really 3 bits of lyrics there, right? She says 99 high-tech jet fighters scramble in the summer sky. So the jet fighters gives you the war, gives you the Air Force. These are some elements that people have picked up in their guesses. She says everyone wants to be a superhero. Nobody picked up on that one. Everybody wants to be Captain Kirk. 2 people mentioned that one so far, with orders to identify, analyze, and classify. And that goes back to the Manhattan Project guess. So everyone pulled out of there little bits that fit their theory, which I also find very interesting.
Yeah, me too. What I got, and I'll say it now, is when you played that, I suddenly thought, well, my same guess, but moving it forward to the 80s, which were very highly influenced in fashion and style by the 50s. Like you got people dressing in similar type. I remember being a kid, dressing in effectively the way my father dressed when he was a kid, which is kind of funny. Yeah. The rolled up pants and the chinos and stuff. Yeah.
And I'm trying not to give anything away, which is why I'm. And Joe Cool sent an entry. This is Joe Cool's second message to us. Also entered the last contest. Joe Cool says, I have to say, I'm pretty stumped by the clues for the game. Enjoying the show, though. My guess that this new game is about dates. And there are different decades in the clues, maybe time travel or dates. So that suddenly makes me think the dates, because Joe Cool's talking about dates, I think as in calendar dates. And maybe that's what James was talking about, in which case, interesting. Maybe time travel or date. Yeah, man. Maybe.
That's kind of interesting. I think of that show maybe it was from the 80s where the little kid and this is pretty obscure, I think, and the older guy, they have that little device that makes them go through time fixing things in history. Do you know what I'm talking about? Voyagers, it was called.
Oh, I thought you were talking about from the 60s or 70s, Sherman and Peabody with...
yeah, I don't like that actually. It's called Voyagers. Very, very short-lived. I believe that the star actually died pretty young with something in an accident, which is pretty tragic because it was a pretty fun show for kids anyways.
I have no idea what the show is. I've never seen it or heard of it. My guess, though, is if you say it's the 80s, remember for a period in the mid to late 80s, I wasn't in this country. I was over in England. And so a lot of stuff that happened here during that time is totally lost on me. So I'm guessing maybe it was during that period.
Could be.
All right. Merc the Meek, a.k.a. Michael, sent in this one. He has a podcast, by the way, called Merc the Meek. By the way, all of these people who I'm saying who have podcasts, the links will be in the show notes, of course, including Daniel for his podcast, his YouTube channel, and his drive-through presence. Let's listen to Merc the Meek, though.
Hello, this is Michael, or Merc the Meek, and we certainly cannot let Jason just take this contest. That would be a travesty. So I played the clips, the hint clips for my wife, and told her this was Shirts and Skirts, and asked her what she thinks this RPG would be about, and she said it's definitely about laundry. So that'll be my entry. It's an RPG about doing laundry, and I mean, now Jason isn't guaranteed the win, and that's what's most important here. So thanks. Take care.
So I think if Michael wins, it's really his wife that won.
That's true. Although that would be I think that's more of a board game than an RPG. The laundry game.
Laundry, the board game. Actually, laundry, in the same vein as like hairspray, sounds like it could be. And car wash, laundromat. It sounds like it could be a 60s to 70s musical, which brings us back to Jason and Evil Jeff. Thanks for that, Michael, and Michael's wife. All right, this is our last entry. This is Riley, his first time ever calling us, and it's almost like Merc the Meek. At the time he called me, he didn't have anything. And then I was listening to one of Jason's show, and he talks about this new podcast, and it's Riley's podcast. It's called Diegetic Advancement, which is a pretty cool name, by the way. I gave it a listen. He only had one episode out. I enjoyed it, but maybe that's because he mentioned my show. I think he might have mentioned yours too, Daniel, by the way. Yeah, that's Riley. Let's listen to his entry.
Hey, Joe. Riley here. Enjoying the episodes, and I guess this is my submission for your competition. Because it's got me stumped, and like the other callers, I'm not sure that your hints or clues have proved really useful for me. But the first thing that came to mind was military slang for shirts and skirts. I tried to Google to confirm that, and I really couldn't find any references. I think it has something to do with the Air Force. The other thing that I thought might be ants related. I don't know where that thought came from either, but I'm going to go with Air Force related and potentially Air Force like gala event. I don't know how that plays as an RPG, and I don't think that's a game necessarily that you'd be interested in, which is making me change my mind. I think I'm just going to say that it's got something to do with the Air Force, and I'll leave it at that. Be nice and general so that I have a better chance of getting it right, I guess, and we'll ignore the dancing. Anyway, looking forward to the competition episode to see what it actually is and what everyone else guessed. Have a good holiday season as we approach that, and I'll look forward to your upcoming episodes. All right, bye.
Hey, thanks for that, Riley. It's interesting that you said, see, this is one of the ones where I thought he is playing the game master instead of the game. But then I just noticed, I didn't notice when I listened to it the first time, that he said, I don't know if that's something you would be interested in. So maybe being a new listener, Riley is not aware that I spent like 1 billion years in the Air Force. So that is something I would be very interested in. But anyway, so that was Riley's guess.
Yeah, I definitely, now that people are saying it, I could definitely see the military connection, I think. It's just that when I was in the military personally, was the 90s, and calling somebody like a skirt or something at that point would have been very, very bad. So I wouldn't have really, but thinking back, just like 1950, I mean, in life, probably calling somebody a skirt, and then I just would have been, but, just so, and I didn't connect to me at all that could be, but I could totally see that same kind of thing, right? Because uniforms, if somebody's wearing a uniform and the female uniform is a skirt, then your dress, well, probably a skirt in that case, you could, especially a dress uniform, right? Obviously not a field uniform. Then you could totally see that kind of slang of the moment. So I could totally see the military connection. And of course, that ties in with the Cold War and all the other things.
But yeah, those were all the guesses. So it is time for the reveal. And I've been giving a lot of thought into how I'm going to do this reveal. One was to go through all the clues and bring us there. And then the other one was pretty much to run through the character creation part of the game. And that will give it away. And what I decided to do is that second one, because going through the clues is really hard to do unless you know the answer. So having heard everyone else's guess, does that change your guess at all?
No, I think, well, yes. I mean, no, because I'm not sure. So why would I change if I wasn't sure? But I do think I think the time period's correct. I don't know that the subject matter is correct. I lean into the taking place in the 50s, if we will, but I don't, it could be military, could be advertising. Again, that's what I connected to as advertising. So I'll stick with my guess. It could be correct.
All right. And I'm going to give you one more chance to change your guess after we create your character. And it's weird to create the character before we talk about the game, but that, like I said, this is really for the reveal. So step one in creating a character is to decide, does your character wear a shirt or a skirt?
Skirt.
A skirt. What color is your character's skirt? Your choices are red, yellow, well, I say gold, or blue.
Oh, red.
Did a light bulb come on? Did you just figure it out?
Yep.
So go ahead and give the great reveal.
So I think now I'm leaning towards the Star Trek thing because I'm thinking Uhura. That's why I chose red.
Okay, under red. So your skirt color in this case, or shirt color, is your like super class, as I call it. You might just call it a class. And then under that, you have your specialty. I call it a class. In traditional RPG might call it a subclass. So for red, your choices would be communications, engineering, or security.
Well, yeah, communications as we...
Okay. And you're absolutely right. It is Star Trek. And that's why it was shirts and skirts, is because everything is based on the color of your shirt or skirt. And when we get to the mechanics, that will be even more clear. But that happened because, so the way I do my streaming services is I binge and dump, right? So I subscribe to Apple TV. I watch everything I want to watch on Apple TV, and then I dump it. And then I subscribe to, in this case, Paramount Plus. And then I binge everything I want, and then I dump it. So on Paramount Plus, I was going through my Star Trek binges, which is 4 new current Star Trek series out right now. There's Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Lower Decks, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and Picard. So I was binging through all those, specifically Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds is a great show, by the way. So there was a lot of Star Trek on my brain, and I was like, oh, it'd be really neat to run a Star Trek game. Because I was watching Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds is placed in the original series era, right before the original series. It's when Pike is in control of the Enterprise.
Oh, interesting. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's a great show. It's the show that feels most like the original series. And what they do with Uhura's character is great. I felt that she was amazingly underused in the original series. She, in essence, just became a secretary saying, hailing channels open, which annoys me, but that's another rant for another day. But in this show, she's great. She has backstory. She has, yeah, it's wonderful. Anyway, but they don't really have the same uniforms that they had in the original series. And that's because 60s styles was different from modern styles. At the same time, I ran across a quote from Nichelle Nichols where she talked about the skirt. And she said how everybody talked about the skirt and how short the skirts were and how she never thought it was a big deal at all because that's what she was wearing, like on the bus to go places and out in public. And it was just, that's the way people dress then. And it wasn't a big deal. And so that's where the name Shirts and Skirts came from and all that.
No, that makes sense. 100%. Now you got me interested in that. I've been doing a similar thing. I had got rid of, because I had so many streaming services, I wasn't watching them all. So I dumped them all, save Apple, because I'm in a family plan, and I watched everything I liked on that. And then I was like, oh, let me get another service. And I'm on Netflix now. So when I get rid of that, I'll check into Paramount for sure.
Yeah, like I said, I really like that one. Discovery, I have mixed feelings about. I can't say why without giving spoilers, but there's a major shift change in the show that happens, and I don't like what happens after that. Lower Decks is just funny. It takes place like after the Next Generation era. And instead of focusing on the bridge crew and everything, it focuses on those people that, the ensigns that work on the lower decks, the backbone of the fleet that you never really see. And it's kind of funny. A lot of fan service. Like in a recent episode, they had Nick Locorno on it, who everyone's probably not as big as a Trekkie as I am, but he was, the name just went out of my head. Anyway, the guy who played Tom Harris, same actor. It was his character on The Next Generation. In the episode where Wesley gets in trouble because they were preparing for the Starfleet graduation ceremony and they performed this illegal maneuver and somebody got killed, Nick Locorno was the guy who was in charge of that little squad of cadets and was leading the cover up and everything. And then, of course, the same actor shows up in Voyager as Tom Paris. And in the first episode of Voyager, he's just getting out of jail. And so there's this whole fan theory that it was the same character. And this episode eliminated that because one of the ensigns is saying, you know, when they see Nick LaCornum, they say, he looks just like Tom Paris. And you know, it's like, no, I don't see it. And he's like, it's the same face. He's like, nope, still not seeing it, which I just thought was hilarious because, like I said, that's just a little bit of fan service.
I have not. I mean, I enjoy Star Trek, but I didn't really even watch Next Generation. I've really only watched the original series, like all the episodes. So
all right. Well, if you like the original series, I definitely recommend Strange New Worlds. And I'm probably going to cut out that whole Lower Deck story because that was too long for no payoff. Anyway,
I'm assuming if somebody really understands Star Trek, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's that character." I went right over my head with that.
Shirts and Skirts is definitely the original series show, and I mean, there's nothing stopping you from playing it. But like even the colors I chose are the original series mappings. They get swapped when you get over to the Next Generation. They swap red and gold. So it's original era. And there was another game out a long time ago. Actually, it's still kind of out. And that's the prize, by the way, is a game called Prime Directive. I have an optional prize if someone really doesn't want that. Amarillo Design Bureau. They also make like Starfleet Battles and all that. Far too much crunch for my taste. But their license for Star Trek is perpetual. At the time they grabbed the license, Star Trek was nothing. It was this old show that was still on TV in reruns. There were no movies. There were no anything. And so when they signed the contract, they got it with no expiration date. So they can do it forever. And technically speaking, it's not Star Trek, it's Starfleet. That's part of the contract terms. But like I said, it's Starfleet Battles. So this is very much a war gamey game. And even their role-playing game has a lot of crunch. And I wanted something more rules light, and that's what this is. The other thing is their universe, because of when they get the license, it does not include any of the movies or Next Generation or anything after the animated series. So their background is very different, and it becomes a very different feeling universe. Like the Klingons are all the mophead Klingons, not the rich head Klingons, and all that fun stuff. So I was like, oh, it would be neat. But like I said, I looked at Prime Directive. I said, too much crunch. I looked at Last Unicorn Games, Star Trek, more rules light for sure, but still more crunch than I wanted. So that's where this game is going to come into play. But before we go into the game itself, let me go over the clues. Okay, so clue number 1 was Wagon Train. And you said, wasn't Star Trek pitched as like a Western in space? Specifically, sir, it was pitched as Wagon Train in space. So that's why Wagon Train. Second clue was I Love Lucy. Now knowing that it's Star Trek, do you know how I Love Lucy fits into it?
I do not.
You do not? Okay. So when that pitch was being made, it was being made to the studio's president. And the studio's president was Lucille Ball.
Oh.
Because Star Trek was made by Desilu Productions. She was the president. Lucille Ball was the one that greenlit Star Trek.
Nice.
So that's how that one fits into it. All right. The third one was the lieutenant. There's a whole bunch of clues in the lieutenant. So I started with obscure. I tried to make it more concrete as I went through time. The Rip Torn, that was a red herring. But Gary Lockwood, so his character, first of all, is named William T. Rice. You said you never watched the Next Generation. So it might be lost on you that the first officer in Next Generation was William T. Riker. Sounds close, but not quite the same. But still, William T. Furthermore, the T in William T stands for Tiberius, which, as we all know, is James Kirk's middle name, Tiberius. That's what the T stands for. William Riker's T is for Thomas, but that's another story. Gary Lockwood also shows up on the second pilot for the original series. The second pilot is where No Man Has Gone Before. It's the one where they get near the galactic barrier, and all of a sudden, 2 crew members develop these super ESP powers and turn into godlike beings. And Kirk has to leave him stranded on the planet. That was Gary Lockwood who played that role. Still, that wasn't a direct clue. The direct clue was, and the reason for all these coincidences is that The Lieutenant was the very first show created by Gene Roddenberry. Also, it's the first appearance of Nichelle Nichols, by the way. She has a guest role in an episode called To Set It Right. She does some excellent acting on that show, which furthered my belief that she was far underused in the original series. Also, Walter Koenig shows up. Leonard Nimoy shows up. Majel Barrett shows up. Of course, we shouldn't be surprised that Majel Barrett and Nichelle Nichols shows up in a Gene Roddenberry show because, reasons. So all these reasons. Do I have a clue left? 99 Red Balloons. Everyone already got that one. That was the Captain Kirk reference. And that last one I played called I'm the X, that is from Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and it's being sung by Ethan Peck, who plays Spock. And that's actually in character from Spock. They encountered a subspace anomaly, which turns the episode into a musical. And that was the big Spock solo. So enough of that.
Oh, interesting. See, I would not have gotten most of those. I'm surprised Jason didn't. He tends to know the deep dive stuff.
So that brings me to a bit of gaming advice, if we will, which is, as a GM, whenever you're making a riddle, make it far easier than you think it should be, because the players aren't in your mindset. And it's going to be a lot harder for the players than it is for the guy who made the riddle.
Indeed.
At this point, Joe and Daniel, but mostly Joe, talked for an hour about the mechanics of the game. That discussion has been cut from this episode. That information, possibly in a shorter form, will appear in a future episode.
Let's do a giveaway, sir. Do you have your D10 handy?
Oh, yes, I do. It is black with white ink.
Mine is yellow with black, which I find the easiest to read. All right. So the way this works is I have arranged everyone in alphabetical order. I don't know if you can see it on your screen.
Yep, I can. I closed that, but let me open it back up. Yep, I see it.
Okay, well, it's not that important. It's everybody in alphabetical order, numbered 1 through 9. Just going to go through them again. It's Adrian, Dark Fluid, David, Evil Jeff, James, Jason, Joe Cool, Michael, and Riley in that order. So that's 1 through 9. If we roll a 0, that means something special. We'll talk about that in a second. Well, we'll talk about it if it happens. So what happens is we both roll. If we match, that's the result. If we don't, we roll again. And we just keep doing that until we get a winner or we both get zeros. So
right.
Time for the first roll, sir.
All right, here we go. 9.
I got a 6. Okay, not a match. Roll again.
6.
I got a 9. That's funny. All right. One more time. 6.
2.
Wow.
9.
Really?
I got 2 and then 9. But
good. So you rolled a 2. I didn't hear the 2. So let me roll against that 9 right now. Nope, I got a 0. All right, so both roll again. 8.
Okay. 4.
3.
5.
3.
2.
0.
8.
2.
4.
4.
7.
2.
4.
This was easier when I only had 4 people in the contest.
Right.
2.
4.
5.
0.
1.
5.
5.
3. Oof. So close.
2.
2. Da, 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 da.
We have a winner, and it's Dark Fluid. All right, Dark Fluid, if you are listening, contact me. If I don't hear from you in a couple of days, I will contact you. Actually, I'll probably give it a week because a couple of days after this is Christmas. But yeah, all I have for you is the phone number that you called from, and I don't like calling random phone numbers. So usually I'll email the winner after a couple days, and I'll say something cryptic like, "Did you listen to the episode yet?" But Jason notifies people right away, and I always find that takes away the suspense when I'm listening to the show, right? Oh, I won. So yeah, okay, no suspense. Or it's the other way. Oh, he didn't call me, so I didn't win. So again, a little bit of suspense. Well, who did win? But I like that suspense. So, all right, that was a very long show. So I am going to wrap it up here. I am going to say, I'm trying to see if I can. Oh, I know how long. Wow, yeah, it has been super long. I might even have to split this one up into two. Maybe some heavy editing. I will say, Daniel, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Everyone else, thank you for listening on this long show. Like I said, I might break it up. I don't know. But yeah, thanks for joining. I'm working on my next giveaway. I know what the prize is. And I know one of the things to win, but it's a big ask. So I might try to come up with another way as well. So yeah, there's that. Do send feedback at decahedron.com, or you can call the number, sayhi.chat/decahedron. All those are in the outro music. They are in the show notes below. And until next week, happy gaming, happy life. Bye. You have been listening to the Decahedron RPG podcast. Send email to feedback@decahedron.com. Remember to spell decahedron with a K. Voice feedback can be sent through the Anchor website or by calling 562-RPG-CAST. That's 562-774-2278. Links are in the show notes. Music is by Kevin MacLeod and Alexander Nakarada. Logo is by Design Cat. Thanks for listening.